So now we have scenes in the park, I guess, and the doggy daycare where the dogs are talking about their relationships with their owners. Is this fitting?
It is now. I mean, it's your vision
for this project.
and you came up with the idea. I didn't have this gossip circle at the park talking about the dog relationships. Where were you going with this?
I have no idea. I'm just trying to keep up. Welcome to Don't Encourage Us, the show where we talk about the big ideas behind fiction projects of all different kinds. Books, movies, TV shows, video games, nothing's off limits. I'm your host, Potent Potables, and I'm here with my co-host, Potpourri. How are you doing today?
Doing great, Potent Potables.
We have a story break episode, but before you turn off the show and delete the episode, we have a special guest. Matt Baughman is back.
That's really going to turn people off now. Like, oh, shit. Click.
Double trouble. That's right. So Matt, longtime listeners may recall, is an actor, a local stage actor, and a leading man who's graced us with his presence. Welcome back, Matt. Thank you.
Thank you. It's fun to be here.
Also a gentleman, also a procurer.
Excellent liar.
It is fun to be here. I'm so happy.
Let's get another couple takes on that one. No, that's good. All right. So today we're breaking an original idea, but before we get into that, what's been on your list this week?
Are you talking about me or Steve?
You know what? I'm just going to throw it out there, and whoever wants to swing at the pitch.
Well, I'm a guest, so I'll go first.
Excellent.
I kind of want to, and this is going to bring the pod down a little bit, but I kind of wanted to talk about the death of Matthew Perry. Well, maybe not talk about the death of Matthew Perry, but talk about how influential he was. I grew up there's three actors that really influenced me. There was Jim Carrey, there was Chris Farley, and then there was Matthew Perry. So Jim Carrey, I kind of learned how to use my face to get a laugh. And then Chris Farley was how to use my body to get a laugh. And then Matthew Perry, I learned how to use comic timing. I felt like his comic timing was impeccable. And it was completely evident in Friends, obviously. But I mean, I watched his movies, the whole 9 yards. There was a movie called 3 to Tango that it was a romantic comedy, Fools Rush In. When I was actually performing in a play, when I came off stage and someone said, "Oh God, Matthew Perry died." And I have to be honest with you, for the rest of the show, I was thinking about that. It was just, I've never met him, but I've spent thousands and thousands of hours with him. It really hit me hard. One of the celebrity deaths don't really hit me very hard, but for Matthew Perry, it did.
Yeah. Well, there's only one guy left there. It's the curse of Matt Baughman.
That's true.
Look out, Jim Carrey.
Well, when Chris Farley died, I think I was in high school, and people called me because they knew how much I loved him so much. They called me and asked me how I was. They didn't do that with Matthew Perry, but when Jim Carrey dies, yes, that's going to happen. Hopefully, for many years, he will not be. He'll be with us. Hopefully, he'll perform more. Yeah. That's he doesn't do a ton of acting anymore.
What was Matthew Perry's journey like? I don't know anything about him beyond really Friends and in the movies he did, but how he got into acting. Do you know anything about that?
Well, what I was also sad was I was reading his book. He had a biography out, and about halfway through it, so it'd be hard going back into it. He came from a showbiz family. His dad was an actor, so he started up pretty young. I think when he was a teenager, and he did small parts in Growing Pains, Facts of Life, that shows like that, kind of one-offs. And then he kind of struggled with sitcoms like Pilot Season, and then. Yeah, he hit with Friends, and that was it. Basically, he was on another show at the time, a pilot, where he was an airport security guard, but who checks bag, the security, what are they called?
TSA.
TSA. He was a TSA, but for an alien planet. So it was a really weird, it was a really, really concept. But he was contracted for that, so he wasn't available for Friends at the time. So he had to have that show get canceled before he could sign on to Friends. But he was the producer's first choice. But they basically shot the pilot with him, and I think the same issue was with Jennifer Aniston.
That's right.
They both were contracted.
She was the lead on another sitcom.
On another show, and they're both hoping that those shows got canceled so they can continue with Friends. And luckily, stars aligned and those shows got canceled. And then Friends became the biggest hit probably ever on TV. And I've seen every episode at least 10 times.
Yeah, there's only, just a handful of shows on that level. Maybe 2 or 3, right? Seinfeld, Friends.
I would say Seinfeld won, Friends.
Knight Rider.
No. Unfortunately, I think Big Bang Theory might be going up into that realm, which I've watched every episode of that, but I was not,
and Everybody Loves Raymond. Maybe.
That might be, yeah.
NCIS with Scott Bakula.
Man.
NCIS Albuquerque.
Star Trek Enterprise.
I love Scott Bakula.
You missed our Scott Bakula conversation. We've had a couple of them now because we thought he had passed on or something, right?
You thought he had retired, right. And I was well aware of his many different shows.
Well, I haven't seen him recently.
That was my question, Matt. And apparently, our potable co-host knows all about Scott Bakula. You want to take it away?
I'll take Scott Bakula for 500.
Have you ever seen Necessary Roughness?
The football movie?
Where he was like a washed up quarterback for college, but he was only like 30 maybe.
NCIS Toledo? Is that what he's in?
Okay, so the loss of Matthew Perry, just to bring it back down because we wouldn't want to have fun on this show. It's a big deal. Yeah, he was touring with his book talking about his substance abuse issues and his near-death experiences. And my wife attended when he was in town, and it was really, really a big deal to her. Like, he talked about nearly dying, and she made the point to tell me that he very clearly stated that he thinks the doctors would not have tried so hard to save him on at least one occasion if he was not so famous.
Right.
So he was living, I think, on borrowed time. And that's not my opinion. I think that's probably what his opinion was, or at least what he talked about. Yeah. So in a way, I guess it's great that he had the years he had, although dying so young. He could have lived another 30, 40, 50 years, I think reasonably. Perhaps if he'd taken better care of himself, or maybe this was just an accident, but he certainly lives hard, for sure.
He did. And so in his book, his parents, so he had whatever keeps babies up at night, not whooping cough, but something, I can't remember what that's called, but it's something that keeps the baby crying constantly. And the doctors prescribed the baby at 3 months opioids. So that kind of like he talks about how that kind of attributed to his
brain chemistry or something.
His drug abuse was kind of like, yeah, exactly. Was just in him from such a small baby.
Right. Like rewired his brain or his biochemistry somehow. Yeah, maybe.
So R.I.P. Matthew Perry, but I'm glad that his work lives on. You can watch it every night at Nick at Night, which I do.
Yeah, it's on all the time.
It's on all the time.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Friends is a real cash cow.
Yeah, I read somewhere that they make like $20 million a year in just the residual income from the show.
Yeah.
Each one of them. It's crazy.
I mean, they don't have to work again.
I would say.
I wonder what happens to those checks now from Matthew Perry. Like, do they go to his family? Does someone inherit it? Or is it?
Yeah, there's like some... I saw some headline. It goes to his dad, apparently, I think. Right. And there is some sort of controversy with that.
I wonder how, like, if his dad dies, does it go to someone else? Or is it like one person only? Like, I'm curious about the rules of residual inheritance.
I would think it was a phrase
I've never heard.
It would be similar to any type of income, right? Continuous income on investments, because it's really kind of like investment income, right? Because it's an asset that's paying off a residual, like a rent almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You live in New York. Does that mean you could like bump into somebody who's like at a table at a club and they're like living off that Leave It to Beaver money?
I think it's possible. Yeah.
And their great grandparents or whatever.
Leave It to Beaver. Yeah, there's a lot of money
going
checks
on keep coming in. Oh, yeah.
Maybe I'll bump into Scott Bakula and ask him about Quantum Leap money.
That should be coming in. There's a new reboot series.
There's a reboot. I wonder if he gets a little.
Can we
little
get him on
taste
this
of that.
podcast? Maybe that should be like a goal of ours.
I don't think. I don't think he's doing
too
much.
See, that's why he's not going to come on the
working.
podcast, Matt. when you're talking like that, I don't think Scott Bakula is doing much. There we go. Sorry, Scott.
You coastal Americans. Ugh, it's so embarrassing. Speaking of embarrassing, I hesitate to mention this because I know it's a sore subject for Matt, but the new Transformers movie came out, Beast Wars. Didn't do so well. I don't know if did you guys go to see it together? Did you keep up the tradition?
I waited for, it was streaming, Paramount.
Mhm.
I didn't see it in the big screen. I know.
Whoa.
How did you miss it though?
Well,
It was on the newsletter, Matt.
It didn't have my. It didn't have Shia LaBeouf in it. It didn't have Mark Wahlberg in it.
Mhm.
So I like, you know what? I'm just gonna wait.
Wow. So you go to Transformers movies, not for the Transformers.
I go for the actors.
Okay. That makes sense.
Screw the Transformers.
Makes sense. They'll have to get Jim Carrey in the next one.
Yeah. Oh my God! If he was opening night, preview night,
You'd be camping out like those Black Friday
can you
sales.
imagine?
You're right.
Yeah. But Pete Davidson was in this one. He was a voice, and he was really good. I can't remember which Autobot he played, but he was good. He was the only recognizable person I can remember, besides the person who always does the voice for
Optimus.
Optimus.
Are there
yeah.
humans in this one, or is it just all Transformers?
There's
Steve,
the
super fan.
he was in
I've gotta ask.
Hamilton. It's not Lin-Manuel. He was in the Heights. Anthony Ramos. So he was in it. He was the main guy. He was good. He was good.
Did you like this movie, Matt?
I'm gonna have to say not really. I'm gonna say 2 stars.
Oh, wow. Ouch.
Yeah.
Ouch. Wow.
I didn't really like the Mark Wahlberg one either. So
Okay.
maybe it's starting to fall down. But the
rare
first
miss.
3,
I like the original.
Another
I'm
miss.
still a fan of the original.
the original one was Steve
We
and I
did.
went to see the original. It was awesome.
That's all right. We'll cut this, but just to save you guys.
So why don't we
some
talk about the
embarrassment.
Marvels
That's
instead?
fine.
Because I heard that's getting great reviews.
I'm going. I got my tickets for tonight already.
Oh wow! Okay, great. Come back and tell us how.
So we'll see
good
how it
is.
What's it getting? Like 1-star reviews?
Well, it's not getting, but it's short. You know, it's under
okay.
2
Well,
hours. It's
that's
like
what you want in a movie.
That's what you want in a movie. It's Marvel's like shortest movie, I think.
It's like 4.5 hours.
4:15.
I saw Killers of the Flower
Yeah.
Moon.
Oh my
It
God, how
was-
was it? Now that's
It was
a long one.
long, and there was something wrong in the theater
Yeah.
with the heating system. So they just had the AC cranked up at like full blast. I was sitting there with a winter coat on and
Ouch.
gloves the entire time. It is
That's how you got COVID.
probably. It's so incredibly long, man. Like that movie could have been like 2.5 hours tops, maybe 2, but 3.5. It's funny because the
Oof.
CBS morning show did a piece on it, on the whole story, in about 8.5
Yeah.
minutes. The story from end to end. And then sitting through that movie was just like, I mean, the acting's phenomenal though. Of course, De Niro's great. All the other like supporting actors are incredible. Cinematography's great. Music, like, so everything about the movie, as you would expect, is incredible.
Just
It needs an editor. Yeah, it's just too much like really, really slow scenes, a lot of like kind of redundancy in like the way they told the story. They would discuss something, then there would be flashbacks showing it that were really kind of unnecessary, and it just really, I don't know, it just really dragged, I thought.
That's the problem now with Scorsese, and I'd put Tarantino in there, and I'd put Christopher Nolan in there, where they give him so much slack. They just say, whatever, this is going to be 3.5 hours. It's going to be 4 hours. It doesn't matter.
That's what happened
I'm
to
a
Lucas.
genius filmmaker.
Yeah,
With-
that's
On Lucas too? Maybe
George Lucas. Yeah,
George
the
Lucas too.
prequels. Somebody needed to
true.
come in and be like, we'll keep about 70% of this.
Yeah, it's like they're too precious with their material that they don't want to cut anything. And they're like Oppenheimer I loved, but you're right. I sitting there for 3 hours. It was too much. It's like cut it down to at least.
I mean, less really is more, like in a lot of ways. And I think that, really shows the skill of the director and editor. And you can really showcase it if you can get something that, you feel needs to be told in 4 hours, but you get it down to 90 minutes. That's super tight. And every scene moves along. So like, we always talk about this, Matt, Back to the Future, how it's a perfect movie, the way it's structured,
It is.
It never, ever drags because they were so great about the editing in that movie, just keeping everything flowing. That's what this movie needed.
Right.
But
it goes by quickly. Yeah. I mean, I have to be honest with you, Scorsese, this might be blasphemous, but started watching his movies, trying to like watch movies I haven't seen before, like Taxi Driver and things like that. And I saw, what's the movie with the Irish gang?
Gangs in New York.
Gangs of New York.
It was on the tip of my tongue. Trust me, it was there.
Yes.
I just watched that.
Potable
I felt like
for the win.
that was so slow.
Alex, I'll take Matt Baughman for 300.
But like the only movie I can safely say that I really loved of Scorsese's was The Departed, and that's like noted to be one of his worst ones. Which even though he won the Best Picture for it,
right?
But that's
and
the
no
only one.
Transformers in it. So that's surprising.
Could you imagine? It'd be a 4-hour Transformers movie.
That's
I
a
might be there
crossover
for
event we want to see.
He would at least get Leo in it, so I'd watch it.
Goodfellas with Optimus Prime. There's some great scenes there, right? As like the big boss. Instead of like Joe Pesci, they like swap Optimus Prime in.
Yeah. Did he also do? He did Casino too, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that was a snoozer too.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
It's no Transformers too. That's for sure.
What about Wolf of Wall Street?
No.
What do you think of that?
Actually, that one is probably I would put that second next to. I didn't mind Wolf of Wall Street. That one was like it felt like it was just too much. Like I came out of the theater like this was too much. This like the pacing, everything was. I felt like my heart just went through some sort of surgery, basically.
Wow.
But
That's
I know
It went
my
through some
heart,
sort of surgery.
my heart went through some sort of surgery.
Don't talk to me right now. My heart just went through some sort of surgery. 1.5 stars.
1.5 stars. That was funny.
That's a quotable.
But yeah, it was a.
That's like when we were splicing reviews together for a studio theater. Remember that?
Yeah.
It was ...
Just make
beautiful,
it pretty. ...
engrossing ...
Beautiful.
A must ... watch. We used to work at a theater. We had to come up with reviews. Sometimes these plays were horrendous. So we need to look through all the reviews and literally cherry pick words and string them together into these sentences. But in order to make it quote unquote legal, you had to put ... in between every word. So it was just a series of words with ... strung together into a sentence because the original sentence was like, this was the worst thing we've ever seen. And then it was like, this was ... scene. And then you'd find best from somewhere and then clip it in. It was so funny. And just make it pretty, they would tell us.
Just make it pretty. That was our big note. Just make it pretty.
Excellent. Well, so you guys mentioned brevity is key. So thanks to the listeners. Thanks to everybody for coming today. I think that's good, right?
Great having you on.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. See you next week.
See you.
We're not hypocrites. Nope, we are, actually. So anything before we go into story break? You guys ready to dive in?
Let's do it.
Let's dive in. Let's do it.
All right. Very good. So we still don't have a story break theme. Anybody want to take a stab at that one this week?
Matt, you're the guest. Do you have an impromptu off the top of your head story break song you can make up?
That's so mean. He's
set
to song.
Set to something
we need a
that's
theme
not
song.
copyrighted, hopefully, so we don't get sued.
Da-da-da-da-da. It's story break.
It's story break. Break me off a piece of that story break.
Nice.
Well, that might be copyrighted.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I like that. I think you were just off key enough that you can claim it's an original composition. All right. So I brought the pitch for today. So my idea, I think this is a film. Right. So I'm wide open if you want to make it a cartoon or a Transformers movie. But right now I'm thinking.
Well, if that's the case, Transformers now.
All right. So this is a romantic comedy about a woman who gets dumped by her boyfriend and she stalks him until a friend of hers helps her realize that she doesn't love her ex-boyfriend. She's really more in love with his dog. And then hijinks ensue as she tries to find ways to sneak pets and cuddles by hiding in the bushes at the park, following them around, and even going so far as to take a job at his doggy daycare. So any reactions? What do you think? Is that a decent premise? Can we run with that?
I think it's a good premise, especially for dog owners. Because... Like, I love my wife.
Okay, let's just get that out there right now.
Okay.
I love my wife.
Hey, Sarah, she's right there, right?
Yeah. I love my wife. I love her. But
there's not a gun sneaking into the frame, is there?
But I really... But I love my dog.
It's just a barrel.
Yeah.
Okay, you love your wife and you love your dog.
My wife.
All right.
I love my dog. So if my wife and I went through trouble, this is hypothetical. So if we were having troubles and we wanted a divorce, we would probably stay together for the dog, like a child. Especially if you don't have a child.
Yeah.
And you have a dog, you treat that dog like your child. So yeah, if we would not get divorced because if we had a dog, because we couldn't do the split custody thing. We would have to be there 100% of the time.
Sounds healthy.
So I could see that.
Is this a Valentine's Day card that he's writing over there? Look, we're not having problems, right? But even
so, what's the cover? What's the cover? What goes on the inside?
That's
the question.
I wouldn't fight with you in front of the dog. That's how much I love the dog. Happy Valentine's Day. Here's some flowers or whatever.
Here's flowers, whatever.
Okay, I think we got your very heartwarming message. Is your
I love
dog
my
there?
dog.
Does he have a gun to your head? You love your dog.
Yep.
I
love
get
my
it.
dog.
It's controversial, but we'll allow it today. All right, good. So because you love your dog, this premise kind of works for you.
There's a lot of people out there like me. And I think people will want to see this.
Just tap the mic once if you're in danger, Matt.
Oh, man. All right, good. Yeah. So I think this is a fun one. This occurred to me. I was talking to a woman and she actually lives in New York, and she was saying that she wasn't sure about her relationship. She was thinking about maybe breaking up, but the guy was nice and she just didn't really like his taste in music. They didn't have a ton of stuff in common, but she loved his dog so much and she just couldn't imagine not seeing his dog, not being able to play with that dog and have a good time. So she was legitimately stringing out the relationship just because she loved the dog. And I was like, man, this is a romantic comedy if I have ever heard of a romantic comedy. Like, I think this is something that a lot of people can identify with. I think they've probably fallen for that. I think they've confused their love of an animal or a pet with the partner who owns it or the person who brought it into their life. I think we've all seen that. And I think it's high time that we have a whole movie that's a romantic comedy. So my working title for this one is Part-Time Dog Stalker. It's just a working title, though. Obviously, That's not going on a marquee. There's a lot that we do not have for this film. So let's start filling it in. Any thoughts, any reactions? Anybody got anything for this one?
I think with the dog part, I see what you're saying. She's not into the guy, but I wonder if this could be one of those movies where like eventually the guy picks up on it and something happens where like he starts becoming a better boyfriend because of the dog. And it's kind of like that becomes kind of the impetus to kind of go. I guess in that case, you'd be going more into the traditional romantic comedy vein.
See, that's
right?
what I knew this would come up, right? We should talk about the ending first so that we don't fall into this trap, right?
Yeah.
What is this ending? Is it, okay, actually, the woman ends up back with the boyfriend, and the dog now has their they have their family, and that's the happy ending? Or does this woman find a different guy who maybe also has a dog who helps her realize, or, maybe they get a dog together and then you have your happy family? Or does this woman end up single with the dog, with her ex-boyfriend's dog, or with a new dog of her own, or something like that, like taking a job at Humane Society, helping dogs? Like, what is the ending here that is appropriate for the time and the story? Do you guys have any thoughts about that?
The dog dies.
Dog
No,
dies.
I'm just kidding. I'm just
nice.
kidding.
Nice.
That
You
would be
psychopath. Good job.
Can we mute his mic?
No.
Tell the dog to pull the trigger.
Tell the dog to pull the trigger. I think she doesn't end up with the dog, but she has a healthy relationship. Like, they meet up. She gets her own dog, and they meet up in the dog park.
So she doesn't steal this ex-boyfriend's dog. She ends up with her own dog, and the message there is there's plenty of love out there. You can find your own. You don't have to stay with a guy just because he's got, or a partner, right? Doesn't matter if it's a guy. Stay with a partner just because you get attached to their animal. Is that
right?
Right. Okay, so then what's the ending for the ex-boyfriend's dog?
Like, that's why I say I think she has to have some sort of connection. Like, they're in the dog park with her new dog playing, and the old dog is in the park as well.
Okay.
And
Big
they
scene.
see each other.
Yeah.
And it's like the dog
Music.
goes, mm-hmm. They look at each other.
He approves.
He approves.
The dog
Exactly.
signs off on her
The dog
moving
signs
on.
off.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
You're good.
exactly. Okay.
I'm good. You're good. We're all good.
He holds up a paw. Don't come over here.
Yeah, exactly.
It's okay.
I don't know. I'm having
on with your
trouble with
life.
this one though. Like,
Go on.
kind of visualizing the scenes, because typically traditionally you'd have like two humans in the scene and the dog. But I'm just like, is this like a sequence of montages between her and the dog,
All right. I'll walk you through it. Yeah. I'll give you a little bit more context. Okay, so you start off and you have a woman, and she's in a relationship, and it's okay. It's fine. But she's super happy, and you realize in those scenes and, dialogue, not just montages, but dialogue, you realize like she's in love with that dog. Like, the two of them are super happy together, and the boyfriend's just kind of there. Like, he's fine, right? There's nothing really wrong with him. He's not some big Chad or whatever. He's just like a regular dude, and they don't have a ton of stuff in common, but she loves that dog, and she stays in the relationship, and she has conversations with her gay best friend or whatever, about the relationship and stuff. And it's very evident in those conversations that she's got a lot in life. She's got a good job. She makes good money. She has, all these things going for her. She's, fun, smart, et cetera, et cetera. And when she talks about the relationship, it's just not doing it for her except for the dog. Right. And then the boyfriend breaks up with her. She's committed and doesn't see what's obvious to the audience, but he's like, look, like, it's just not going to work. And she's like, what? And then he takes the dog away from her, and she's devastated. Now you have funny scenes where she's stalking her ex-boyfriend. She's like following around and doing all that funny kind of crazy stalker stuff. And this is a woman with like a good job, right? She's educated and intellectual. So it's silly and funny and weird that somebody who's so successful and so competent, like maybe she's a dentist or something, I don't know, lawyer, whatever, that she's actually like being very clever and sneaky and stalking. And then she almost gets busted. It's an embarrassing, particularly funny scene. And she's talking to her best friend about it over, I don't know, whatever's trendy today, some sort of small drink cocktail sampling event or something. And she's like explaining what happened. And her friend's like, you don't love Jim or John or Mark, whatever his name. We'll call him Chad. Why not? You don't love Chad. You love, what's the dog's name? Somebody give me a
Rufus.
Dog's name.
Let's do Ravioli.
Try harder.
That's my dog's name.
What is it?
Let's do Ravioli.
Ravioli. Perfect.
Yes.
You love ravioli. And then you get a reaction shot of her.
It's
Rufus.
Ravioli
Good
in
God,
the
you're
room.
fired.
He's right there, isn't he?
His paw comes up with the gun.
It goes back down. And you're like, ravioli.
I love my dog.
Is that today's newspaper?
Yeah.
Oh man. I was a reaction shot of the woman. You see her face as it dawns on her very slowly that she does not love Chad. She loves ravioli. And I appreciate that name. That was perfect. So then she, instead of learning her lesson not to stalk, she switches from stalking Chad to stalking ravioli. So she's hiding in the bushes when they go on walks and then sticking her hand out and like rubbing his head and, you know, his rear end and his favorite way of being pet. And she's hiding in the bushes so that when Chad throws the Frisbee, she's over there with like treats and the dog runs in and they play together and she rolls around with them. And when that's not enough, she gets a part-time job at the doggy daycare center. And she's like hiding in the back when Ravioli comes in with Chad. And then she runs out and plays with him all day. And it's supposed to be a bunch of different funny scenarios where she almost gets caught and she has to go to extremes. And it's just sort of classic, a little bit cliche stuff, right? This is not Shakespeare here. I'm not inventing a new genre. Then you have the character arc and some realizations, and then we arrive at our ending. Does that help you see it a little bit better?
Yeah, I see it.
No,
it's not that I hate it.
I think we also need to add like a subplot involving another love interest, like either vet tech,
sure,
or something,
right?
Because I think we need that kind of that to make it a rom-com. We have to have some sort of relationship going on.
So I understand why you would say that. I really want I want all that stuff to be misleads, right? I don't want like an actual leading man cast as the, or not leading man, but like an actor who has I want it to be a misdirect. Right? You think that the arc of this character is for her to end up in a relationship that is actually a good one and happy. And I don't think that's needed today.
I agree.
You know?
I agree. But I think you have to have that flirtation of something like,
I think you can have fun with that. Yeah.
Right. Have fun with it. Also be like, the last scene between the two characters, like, maybe we can get some coffee. And she's like, maybe. And that's it.
Yeah. Go get a dog for my dog to play with and we'll talk.
Yeah. Right. Something like that. Because the real love affair is between her and if she doesn't end up with the dog.
Well, see, that's the thing, right? We were back to what ending is meaningful, So maybe we'll figure that out as we go. Steve, did you want to jump in and talk about how bad it is?
No, I was just going to say maybe like it's like a best friend type of scenario. Because every rom-com has that best friend, the wacky best friend.
Well, in what role?
In terms of another subplot, I'm saying
here?
Like giving advice, pro or con or whatever about the woman and her infatuation with this dog. I don't know. I was just thinking like...
Yeah, I mean, you need a running thread of the advisor of some sort, right? Like it's usually one character. They don't usually divide that up too much unless somebody comes in and brings sanity and it's like their parent or whatever. But yeah, I mean, we need a running character who's the confidant because otherwise it's all like, in her head. So yeah, for sure. But I mean, what is that like? Is that significant? Like what to you, like what's missing that you're trying to add back in?
I'm still struggling with the scenes between the woman and the dog. Like I feel like those scenes that you outlined are funny, but like what else is going on? Like we don't have like kind of like, obviously it's a dog. So we don't have like the inner voice of the dog and what they think about this. Like, how do we make this?
Well, maybe should we make this like a look who's talking type of thing?
Talking dog.
What does Ravioli want?
Maybe the dog
Matt,
transforms.
What does Ravioli want? He's right there.
Yeah, maybe he wants a Ravioli wants a voice.
I figured. Yeah, I don't know. I almost see this as a short film then, and not a feature. Because I guess I'm having a hard time going from like, how do you establish that this is like the most amazing dog of all time without having like this? I guess I don't watch these types of movies where they're like the kid becomes friends with the dog or whatever to really establish that bond between them. And I'm kind of missing that in this plot. Like the different scenes that would kind of establish how amazing this dog is, that she's completely obsessed with the dog and not other people in the movie, you know? Am I missing something? Like,
because it's a dog.
I know.
It's a dog.
Sound like a classic non-dog owner.
I know, right? You're missing love in your life. Jesus, go get a dog. No, I think your criticism is legitimate if what you're saying is,
right.
and only if, otherwise it's illegitimate. No, if what you're saying is that it's too thin, right? It's too thin of a story. There's not enough going on. You're not seeing the meat of, a typical 4-hour film or whatever it is you like to go see. So I
Get Scorsese.
What would he do?
He'll stretch it out.
He would know what to do. We're going to hold on the dog for about 15 minutes with the sun rising behind him.
Oh man. Okay, good stuff. So Matt, I think he has us. I think he's right. There needs to be another major plot thrust here or something else to kind of make this into a full movie. It could be a tight, short comedy with some funny scenes, but it doesn't hurt to add more. Any thoughts about what else this movie needs?
Well, I think, like I said, the potential love interest, because that could add a couple scenes in there.
Yeah.
I think you would have to make the ex-boyfriend, I think you're going to have to kind of make him a jerk. I think you're going to have to make him someone kind of despicable in a way. So, and he gets his comeuppance at the end because I think it's a stronger choice to have that as opposed to have just someone just kind of like, he's an okay guy. Because I think you could probably, that gives a little bit more emphasis of why she loves the dog so much, is that she's staying with this horrendous guy just because of the dog.
Okay, but that changes the ending, right? Then you can't leave the dog with this guy either.
You're right. You wouldn't want to leave the dog with, you're right. You wouldn't want to leave the dog with the owner.
Is there a way for him to be flawed and an obviously terrible match for her without him being despicable? And then we could give him an arc where he works on himself and, and by the end of it, he is appropriate. Like he's good enough to own ravioli. Is that? And then she lets it go. Could that be?
I think you're right. Like he learns his lesson too. Like maybe he's like kind of just a schlub. Like he has no ambition in life.
Right. Doesn't walk the dog enough.
Never walk the dog enough. He just lays on the couch and then he, gets in shape and
montage, like a Rocky montage.
He takes his shirt off.
Mr.
Wait,
T.
there you go. But then she goes back to him. He takes off his shirt and he's got the 6-pack abs, and the woman's like,
abs.
You've changed. And then they get back together. That's impossible.
Ooh, I hear feminism booing.
Yeah, that's true.
Are you trying to get yourself canceled, Matt?
No.
Are there some muscly gym guys with a gun pointed at you off camera?
Yeah. Pump it up.
Good stuff. Okay, so back to my question. Can we make this the boyfriend, can we make him flawed without making him despicable, give him an arc, and then would that satisfy our number one critic in the room?
Never.
Never.
I demand excellence.
Okay, so what do you guys think? Can we do that? Can we find a version of him that adds to the story? And secondly, I guess that's a question for Matt and for Steve. Would that help? Would that turn this into a more closer to a worthy film?
I think so. Yeah, I think.
What do you think?
I think you can make him despicable without making him absolutely horrendous. Like if he was just someone who's really self-centered, or he only worries about his career, or like maybe he doesn't pay attention to ravioli as much as he should, but maybe someone from the Humane Society sees him or something and reports him. I don't know. Something like that might work. So he's not like, so he's not horrible, I'm saying. And it's like an outside force that kind of takes ravioli away from him,
Well, let's give him some excusable flaws that he can recover from. Is that were you going to say something, Matt, about that?
Well, I forgot who broke up with who.
He dumped our
he
main
dumped
character.
her.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that was, for me, that was important because she's confused. And I think this is relatable, right? Like she loves the unit that they have created because the dog is like the shining star, not this guy who's, dealing with depression or whatever his forgivable flaws are that he can overcome by the end, or maybe the way he was raised or whatever is an acceptable way to, reason for not being a great boyfriend. And then and she doesn't see it. And so he ends the relationship and she's, crushed and confused about why she's crushed. So I feel like that's critical, right?
I think if he breaks up with her, then he can't be kind of a schlub, because I feel like if a schlub would just let things happen, like just be too lazy to break up with him.
Too passive. So he can't be passive. Unless that makes it funnier because it's more unexpected. Right? It's more surprising. Like she's the dynamic, successful person who's smart and educated, and he's got some nice qualities, but he's been kind of going downhill and not been a great boyfriend. And she's defending to her friends why she's still with this guy. And they're like, that doesn't make sense. Like it doesn't add up. Right. And then he ends it with her. And she's like devastated and shocked. And then this weird stalking behavior. And they're like, what is happening? Like, I feel like there's a lot of comedy in that. I know it's totally inappropriate and borderline offensive, but it's funny if you play it right and you put music behind it that tells you you're supposed to think it's funny. Right?
Well, what if he broke up with her to go out with to date another person?
Oof, that is hard to come back from. I was thinking that, Matt,
but what if like that person is rejecting him? Like he's going after them, but they're rejecting him. It makes him almost, doesn't make him look great, but at the same time, he's not like completely awful that he's, cheating on her the whole time.
Well, no, he's not cheating. They don't cheat. Well,
he's just fickle.
It's like shiny object syndrome at work or something. I'm almost seeing this as a cartoon now.
Oh my God. I'm seeing you as a cartoon right now.
Fine. This session's over.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. What do you mean?
No, kind of like those Richard Linklater. He did those movies that kind of like look realistic. Do you know what I'm talking about, Matt? You might know those Richard Linklater movies. About. It seems like it's kind of surreal too.
I think it's too maybe, but then that's that changes the whole.
It does.
Vibe of
that's
the movie,
what we're here for.
Those cartoons are not
changing vibes.
Comedic. Those are.
That's what we do. on this podcast.
Vibes, that's what you do.
Flexibility. Okay, so what are you trying to capture with that? You're trying to change the tone, or you're trying to turn this into something that to you makes sense. What is making it a Richard Linklater cartoon do that I'm not getting?
It'd be funny if we had the dog's perspective on all of this. Like it was like a talking dog, or you hear.
Like, are we back to a talking dog? Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So I'm sensing that this idea is not landing on the level that I had imagined.
We're here to explore different concepts, right? Where would we take it?
Let's do it. Yeah, let's go. I give up.
Don't
let's
give
go
up.
Down
Keep
that
going.
road.
Keep going.
I'm nothing if not flexible. So the dog is a talking dog. It's a cartoon. There's a whole rich world of dogs and their perspectives on their owners. Yeah. So now the dog has a ton of dialogue. Well, you know what I mean. Yes. Medium income dogs. So now we have scenes in the park, I guess, and the doggy daycare where the dogs are talking about their relationships with their owners. Is this fitting?
It is now. It's your vision
for this project.
And you came up with the idea. I didn't have this gossip circle at the park talking about the dog relationships. Where were you going with this?
I have no idea. I'm just trying to keep up.
Matt, what do you think?
Oh man,
I don't know. Matt. I'm going back and forth. I kind of do like the cartoon idea of, but not the Richard Linklater. I'm talking about just like kind of like
Disney,
Pixar type of Disney,
Ooh,
and
okay.
kind of like. This changes the premise, but it's kind of like, what if the dog's perspective of his parents breaking up, and like what's going on with that? Like he doesn't understand why dog mom and dog dad are not together anymore, and he might try to get them back together. That takes the whole premise into a completely different.
No. But this is probably a better idea because it's an opportunity for like Disney or Pixar to like teach kids how to deal with their parents arguing.
Actually,
and
true.
Divorce.
That's kind of genius, actually.
So the dog is just
it's a really clever
stand-in.
idea.
Well, that's why I'm here. Thank you. Because basically, because you don't understand why mom dog and dad dog are breaking up. So the funny premise is the dog tries to get all the hijinks occur when the dog tries to get the parents back together. Almost like a parent trap.
Yeah, it's a kid fantasy. Yeah. So first of all, screw you for coming up with a better idea
Sure.
on my show. Second of all, this is potentially really powerful and it has a ton of heart. Like this is a great message for kids in a fun, safe, easy to digest kind of format. And there's enough heart and potentially interesting elements to it that parents will be paying close attention to, because there are very few families that haven't thought like either about in their own family or families they've known what it's like for kids when parents have problems. And you're just substituting the kids with dogs. It's brilliant.
Yeah, totally. Thank you.
All right. Yeah.
And no one has to take off their shirt and show their abs.
Unless they want to. Because we're inclusive here.
Well, now I'm out. I'm out. Now I hate it. That's great. All right. So what else do we need in our Disney? Is it Disney or you want more Disney, more Pixar? What do you think? What kind of animation do you want for this?
I mean, I would go Pixar.
Pixar.
I think that just seems like because they take like real life or they take, hard concepts with people and make it into kind of like a storyline. So yeah, I would. And I think if you want to talk about the ending, I would say that the parents don't get back together, but the other parents get another dog. Or he stays with the mom and the dad, and they are amicable, so they get back together. And like basically, the dog has a new brother or new
like
sister.
a half sibling or something.
A half sibling.
No,
and
the parents don't split. The parents end up together in your story.
No, the parents do split.
But
okay. The other, and like let's say the dog goes with the mom. But also the dad also gets a new dog.
Right.
So and then the dog's happy and they're amicable.
Right.
And they meet up in the dog park and they get to play and they have their.
Like a new family almost.
A new brother. Like a new
family.
Well,
yeah, you've got half siblings and then you can do the blended family where like one of the parents gets remarried. That's the one that has primary custody of the dog child. And that person that they marry already has a dog or a couple dogs or cats or whatever, or birds or something. So now it's a blended family.
It's a blended family and that's the benefit of that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's your story. That's really great. Good, Matt. That's brilliant.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Enjoy the podcast. It's yours now.
You know what's funny? I just saw the podcast title because I had copied it and pasted it over. Like I wasn't really paying attention to the title. I just saw that Matt was going to be on it. I was like, that's hilarious. I think you've got a title. Ruff Love is like it's a perfect title for this.
Ruff Love.
Yeah, that was my other working title.
By Pixar.
I like that one.
I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
By Pixar.
That's perfect. Yeah, because it's a difficult journey for kids to adjust when there's strife and divorce and breakups in the family. So, yeah, it works. You can make it inclusive. So Pixar will take a swing at it, and I imagine a lot of parents will be interested and curious. You have to get the tone and the message right, and it's tricky because there are a lot of strong opinions, and the culture's changing all the time. But as long as I think it ends in a way that's a little bit heartbreaking, but also everybody's okay, right? And the dog's okay, right? Then I think it works, right?
Yeah,
agreed. Good. Let's get this.
Are we done?
Yep. Do an outline. Send to Hollywood. Let's become millionaires.
This one writes itself, I think, for the most part. But any thoughts about key scenes in this one, like over the course of the film? Where do challenges come in? What do we need to see from the characters? Like, what tell me more. Any thoughts?
Some really good foreshadowing, I think. Like, there's like the typical places where they go with the dog together. so that later on in the movie,
Mhm.
you see the same scenes and it gives you that like kind of emotional reaction, you know, or like the favorite dog toy or something, and they can't find it in one scene, and it's because one of the two parents has it at their house or something. I thought that would be a nice kind of scene for the movie, kind of bring things together.
And I think you're going to have like a plan scene, the dog is in the park, Ravioli's in the park with other dogs, and then the other dogs are like conspiring, like, okay, how can we? What's the plan here? And it's like one of those like Ocean's 11 type things where it's kind of like the flash forward of the plan, what the plan is going to be.
Uh-huh.
I think you need something like
So
that.
I have a question,
Nice.
Matt. So the dog obviously isn't understanding what's going on. So is it the interpretation of the dog
Mhm.
and them talking to other dogs or other animals about what they think is going on? So they're like, oh, my owners did this
Yeah.
when this happened. This is what I did. You should try that. Like, so it's something along those lines, right? So there's like that.
Right. Because I'm sure there's another older dog in the group there that said, this happened to me once. And they actually goes as a flashback to their story too. You see the old dog as a puppy, and this is happening.
Oh, I like that.
Great. Well, hope you two are very happy together.
Wait, you had an idea for a movie? We should discuss
Ruff
it.
No, we're doing both movies. It's official.
The live action?
There'll be companion
Separately.
pieces. Yeah.
That's right. We're going to steal dialogue. If it doesn't work in one movie, it'll work in the other one. So we'll just write them at the same
One's
time.
NC-17 and the other one's a kid's movie.
Pixar's first NC-17 film.
Well, on Story Breaks, do you do casting at all? Like, what
We
would
do
you-
everything on
Yeah,
Story
yeah.
Who would you
Break, Mike.
cast?
Cast
So-
away.
We go from beginning to end.
Who would you cast as the main dog?
Peter Cullen. Sorry.
That would be.
Wait, which movie are we casting, right? Are we casting the Pixar movie?
Do you mean
We can
like
cast the- we
literally
can
what
cast
dog
both.
would we like Lassie? If we could find Lassie, would we cast Lassie?
No, like
I
voice-
know
the
what he
voice of the
means.
dog.
I'm trying to keep it light, okay?
Well, no, but that's true,
God,
too.
You
you-
stupid.
Jeez.
Pay attention.
I think.
God damn it.
You really got to lean into your sarcasm
Yeah.
more, all right? Yeah. Okay. So, voice of a dog. If we're doing the Pixar film, it needs to be somebody on the younger side, or who can do the voice of like an 8-year-old or something like that. I don't know what age we're aiming for. 6 to 10, probably, for divorce.
Yeah.
So the main dog would be the younger. Like maybe there's 2 dogs in this family or 2 pets. Maybe it's a cat and a dog, or I don't know, some other pet. They have an otter or something. And the older one would be like the older sibling or older sister, brother. And then the younger one would be the main character. That's typically the Pixar kind of approach to teaching kids. So we're looking for someone who can do the voice of like a probably 6 to 8-year-old. What do you guys think? Sound about right?
I would probably say you need like a teenage voice for the youngest one, just because the dog in dog years, they would probably be a teenager.
Pete Davidson?
I would say
Not
He'd be
we
kind
need
of-
to be
Who's that?
I think he'd be really good,
Yeah,
actually.
okay.
Pete Davidson.
Pete Davidson. All right.
Pete David,
Well, you just want to date him.
This crowd.
but he wouldn't be good as the lead. He'd be good as a side character, as a
Wow.
funny side character dog.
Somebody has something against
Well,
Pete
I mean-
Davidson.
You're talking about
Is he in the-
Steve's,
I like
talking about
Pete Davidson
Steve's
a lot,
crush. That's
but I
awful.
think his talents lie. as the
All right.
supporting.
We'll
funny
put Pete
Okay.
Davidson in
All
a
right.
box
Yeah,
then.
he's
He can't
the
ever
kind of
break out of
wacky-
his... That's fine, Matt. You just really don't want
in a
Pete Davidson to shine.
You're the funny
you know?
friend, Pete. Go home, Pete. This is a lead role.
All right, we can cast.
Can
Pete
we,
Davidson.
though?
I mean, if
This
you
is
if
your
you would
movie
do our
now.
movie,
Pete, you're out. We'll be in touch.
How about a
we'll be in
Matt
touch.
Baughman type
Matt
for the
Baughman
lead?
So,
Matt Baughman will play the lead character.
Not Matt Baughman per se. He's played out. Can we get a Matt Baughman type though? Maybe a younger, sexier,
with a gray sweatshirt.
more,
Yeah.
6-pack abs.
Just describing what I'm wearing.
Matt, what do you think? Who do you envision?
What leading
We're throwing
man do you
some names
envision
here.
besides Matt Baughman?
If you want young, I would say like a Tom Holland, maybe Timothy Chalamet. But honestly, I mean, he's a little older, but I would love Sam Rockwell as the main character because I love. He's one of the actors.
You sure he just can't play a supporting character though, Matt?
No, that's Pete Davidson's role. Sam Rockwell can do anything.
Alley cats. Pete, your job is to yell your lines as if you're in an alley outside the window. Go. So you're envisioning a younger voice though, right? I mean, I kind of keep pushing that, but all right. So if this is analogous for a child's journey through divorce or parent problems, then you need someone who's going to speak like they're younger, and you want the character to sound like a teenager going through parents' divorce. Is that
a tween? Yeah,
a tween. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're compromising. You're splitting the age difference.
Splitting the apple. Yeah.
Okay, fine.
If I'm anything, I'm right down the line.
He's the Transformers of co-hosts.
I'm the Transformers of co-hosts.
Right down the middle. Okay. So anybody else? Steve, any thoughts on casting for this? You want to go outside the box a little bit? Christopher Walken. How about that?
Yeah, he'd be great as the old dog.
Couldn't he play a tween though?
Okay.
Like he has that nice... You know who would be funny? That guy, Stephen Merchant. If you could throw him in there somewhere.
Oh, yeah. He's awesome.
He's so funny.
So now we're writing characters for actors we like. That always results in a really tight story. That's going to be great.
Throw Jim Carrey
We'll take the cast of The Outlaws. Have you seen that show, Matt? On Amazon Prime? It's hilarious with Stephen Merchant.
No.
Yeah, with Christopher Walken and Stephen Merchant.
Oh,
so we'll just put them both in there.
I got to check that out. Yes.
Get a digital AI Chris
How about Ricky
Farley
Gervais as the mom?
Oh my God! All right, so
you just want the whole British Office.
All these tween dogs are going to be actors in their 50s,
that makes it funny though, right?
70s. God, I hate middle school.
You're such an ageist.
Does
it always have to sound like
planning for retirement?
I'm sure there are tweens that sound like they're 75. Come on.
Sure, why not? All right. Okay, good. Anybody else? So no other actors. Like we've got to cast the parents. There's other animals, I guess. Is there anybody hot? Maybe somebody that's young, that's got some heat on them that we could like work in here? Any actors you've seen recently that you think really were good? Like, like the Stranger Things kids, like 10 years ago when they were teenagers or whatever. Is there anybody like that?
Now they're in their 20s.
Oh, at least. Is there anybody that jumps out? No? Young Paul Rudd.
As kid actors? No.
Nothing?
There's really no kid actors out there.
So I feel like I personally think, and I've been wrong a lot today, so feel free to ignore it, but I think we need some younger talent here. Some actors, maybe we got to go to Nickelodeon or whatever, but some actors who can deliver heart and like really make you care and help the audience, especially the adults in the audience, imagine the dog is a child, like is somebody's kid. I just don't think it works if the dog isn't clearly, to an adult, isn't clearly like a kid dealing with, a young kid who's dealing with this really horrible, all too common situation. So I think we need younger actors, or at the very least actors who sound
What about like Jenna
Ortega
young for like one of the roles,
That's
right?
better, right? Yeah, that could work.
Well, if you're going to go kids, you're going to have to cast not unknowns.
There are
we just don't know
kids, right? I mean, not that I know them, but yeah, exactly. I think this is where we need like a casting agency that can be like, we have thousands of kids who people know.
Like Jacob Tremblay, but I think he's getting too old now. He would be perfect if it was a couple years ago. Because he does, if you watch the Harley Quinn show on HBO Max, he does Robin as a kid.
Oh, okay,
but
great.
As you see now, his voice has changed, so you can tell he's older. He's a teenager now.
I don't know, Batman. What should we do? Good. All right. So, anything else before we put this episode to sleep?
If the listeners aren't already.
Yeah.
I think this is popping. I think your listener. I think these listeners are going to be really into this.
Let's just
Trying out for the role.
Yeah.
This
I'm trying
is
to act
popping,
young.
everybody.
This is popping.
Yo. It's popping.
This is the
Poppin',
real.
yo.
This is the real Riz.
You're hired. I'm going to take that as a no, I have nothing else to offer today from everybody.
I already came up with the whole change of plot, so I'm good.
You did. You
you
offered
did a
a
great
lot.
job.
I appreciate that. Thanks for making this work. You certainly made my co-host happy. I think he was about ready to walk out a couple times. So at this point in the episode, we usually come up with a few questions for the audience to answer. I'll get the ball rolling. Which movie do you like better? Do you like their crappy Pixar one that's going to make billions of dollars? Or do you like my
Indie.
really obscure, thinly plotted romantic comedy niche film? Huh? Which one do you like? I mean, I think the answer's obvious, but maybe you want to message us and let us know. Any other questions for the audience?
Yeah, I would like to know who they would cast as for both
Who else?
your version and I'm going to call it my version.
All right.
Ooh, ouch. I
Just
guess
kidding.
whose names? We figured
I'm
out his
kidding.
names at the top of the script. All right.
No, whatever version. I'd be curious who people would want to see or hear in there
Okay.
in either version.
Other than you. of
Yeah,
course.
which 5 characters would you cast Matt Baughman as?
Other than that, yeah. Is Matt Baughman going to make it in the biz?
Good. Any other thoughts, questions for the audience? Anything else we want them to do here? There's a lot for them to potentially fill in, right? We got to talk about endings. Like, what's a happy ending for a Pixar movie about divorce and how it affects kids/dogs? And what does that look like for you? Like, I imagine people, when they really stop and think about it, have pretty strong opinions about, what they
totally,
want
yeah.
their kids to experience and get out of that, or how they want them to land at the end of the story. So that, I think that's worth some thought there, even if you don't let us know and make us come up with our own ending.
Where would you place the movie? Would it be in a city environment? Would it be in the countryside? Would it be in a lot of different locations? Like, what would that look like?
Mm-hmm. Anything else? What major obstacles? Like, what would be the Act 2 turn? Where would all look lost in a story about divorce and kids? That's a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
How would you work with the interpretation of like the dog seeing things through their perspective versus what the humans are actually saying? How would you make that work if there's a lot of conversation, or would it all have to be like really physical? Like in terms of the actions between the humans versus the dogs, like how would you make that work?
Oh, like so the parents don't really talk. It would just be their
like, would you
actions.
do it like that, or is there another way to do
Yeah.
it? And because we're assuming the dogs don't understand what these humans are talking about, but that's easier said than done.
Why
Yeah.
are we assuming that? Isn't it pretty standard practice in films like this that the animals understand people, but like just don't talk to them?
But I'm saying,
Isn't
I
that
don't
how
know
they usually
how
do?
would we want to do it? Like that's my question. Like, are they understanding what they're saying and the humans don't realize that they're understanding it? Or is it just like gibberish that they hear the humans talking amongst themselves and they're interpreting what's going to happen between the humans,
Yeah, I mean, there's probably a really creative, stylized way to embrace that as part of like to sort of represent the experience of a child not understanding when their parents are arguing. Like, they're saying words, and maybe in our version, if you really want to go for Oscar material here, when the parents say certain words, just like a dog. The dog understands some of those words, like a kid might when parents are arguing, but can't understand the bigger picture, so the dog would experience that, or, the audience through the lens of this dog as only recognizing some of the words, and the rest of it is stylistically represented as noise or something. And you can see that the dog is scared and confused because the parents arguing only makes a little bit of sense, but it's clearly bad. Right. So there is an interesting way to do that. But now you're signing up for a complicated storytelling approach where the whole film you're committed to that. Right. Unless you want the dog to like suddenly learn English.
Because you've got to set it up early on in terms of what the dog understands their owner doing. I think that would be really important to do. Like when they pick up the keys, it means X. when they walk through the door, this is what happens. Like, these are the different patterns that you have to establish in the beginning. So then later on, you understand that the dog's level of understanding of the humans in their life, and they can figure out like something's wrong or, something's amiss.
Yeah.
It's tricky.
I was watching The Hunt for Red October, and they had a similar issue where they wanted to cast Sean Connery and a bunch of other actors who clearly do not speak Russian. Initially in the film, when you see these Russian characters, they're speaking Russian with what I'm told are pretty terrible accents, and it doesn't sound particularly good. But to an audience in the 80s, it sounded like people speaking Russian. And then there's a scene where the political officer I think he's reading a quote from the Bible, and the camera zooms in a bit on his mouth, and then he switches to English, and then it zooms out, and that's their way of saying like, hey, these people are still speaking Russian, but we're just now gonna, show it as English.
I've never seen that done.
Yeah. So,
yeah, they did that in that Tom Cruise Valkyrie movie. It's like the first minute. Mm-hmm. Tom Cruise is speaking in German, and then it kind of like trans over to English. So it's kind of it was kind of a cool way to do that.
Yeah. So you could use those kinds of things to, if you want, to show like it's the dog's perspective on people. And then other times you have a way to visually show that no, like the dog is not understanding this, but you as the audience do not have to listen to people go, wah, 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 fetch,
right.
wah, 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 wah,
or the dog's
bark,
barking and then suddenly speaking in English.
Sure. Yeah. You zoom in and zoom out, and then play the theme song or the music from October.
And he's reading a Bible passage.
Yes.
He's like, woof, 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 woof.
And though he came from above and saw breathing fire and forgiving our sins with his other hand. Or whatever the Bible says. I forget. It's been a while. But yeah. So yeah, there's ways to do that, but I just don't. I think there's room in a Pixar film or a Disney movie or an animated film aimed at kids to do some of that, but you very quickly lose your supposed target audience, which is going to be kids, right? So they're going to be confused if you start screwing around with that stuff. Like, I think you're better off looking at like 101 Dalmatians. How did they do that? And
or like the 13th Warrior.
Yeah.
See what they did.
Another popular kids movie. Yeah, we're on the same page today, man. Like,
I just brought that one up because I know it's someone's favorite movie on the podcast.
They did it. They did that in that movie too.
That's why I brought it up.
Weren't they speaking? So, yeah. The whole montage where the guy learns Viking speak or whatever. Yeah.
Yep.
We'll just do that while they're murdering. The dogs are like taking down joggers. That's perfect. Oh, excellent contributions today. Chef's kiss. All right. So I think that pretty much does it for today. Unless you guys want to take over steering this ship. All right. So thank you to Matt Baughman. Thank you to the listeners. Thank you to all of you, or that one person who stuck around to the end.
It was Sarah.
Ravioli.
It was ravioli.
It was ravioli. That episode was rough.
That was rough.
We should just call this the rough episode.
Oh man. Another
the one
rough
about
episode with Matt. That's your podcast, man. Podcast mechanic. It's what you just come on and fix other shows. Oh my God. So if you don't want any more of this stuff, please stay away from those like and subscribe buttons. I'm sure you can find better things to do with your time. You can reach the show if you'd like and let us know what's wrong with all of our ideas at don'tencourageus@gmail.com or don'tencourage@gmail.com. I snagged both. You can flame us in the YouTube comments if you want. You can find us on Instagram, whatever Twitter is this week. I think there's some sort of Threads thing. We're on all that stuff, so feel free to join the trolls in our community. You can check out our show notes for more information. And unless anybody has anything to add...
Where can the audience find out about you, Matt?
Ooh, yeah. Good question.
Let's see. I have an Instagram, Matty Box.
Could you spell that for me?
You could follow me there.
Yeah, okay.
MattyBaughs. Matty Box.
I was going to end with TWITTER.
No.
Matty Box,
and then
right?
You can find me on Facebook, Matt Baughman. Do not have a Twitter. You can find me on LinkedIn. That's cool. Matt Baughman too. We can get professional with it. Yeah. So that's it. I'm currently not in a play. But if you're around April 2024, I'm doing a musical with my brother called Gutenberg the Musical. And it's on Broadway right now with Andrew Reynolds and Josh Gad. It's a 2-man show about Gutenberg, the guy who invented the printing press. It's a really funny, zany show. And then in July, I am doing playing Jack Nicholson's character in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Very cool.
So
Oh, wow.
that should be fun. Yeah. So if you're in the area, I hope you're in the area.
Can you tell them where you would get a ticket or where you're going to be?
Or fly in. You can go to landlesstheater.org. You can get tickets there for both plays.
Landless, L-A-N-D.
Landless, yep. Like we have no land.
Landless Theater. Okay,
Yep.
great.
Landlesstheater.
Landlesstheater.org. All right.
Landlesstheatercompany.org.
You should.
Okay. Landless Theater Company. It's
just Google Landless Theater. I'm not sure what their website is.
Don't make them work for it, man.
I like how he's just like, just come and
Just
see
go to
me.
the
I'm going to be in the show. I'll see you there.
Just come see me. I'll see you there.
Just go see every show, and I might be in one of them. It's fine.
If you're lucky, I might be there.
Well, thank you for coming on and
this was a blast.
Us.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. And we'll see you guys next week.
Take care, everybody.